Lacey Everett here with Minds in Motion.
Today's guest is Dotsie Bausch, who is an Olympic medalist for cycling. Also won 8 U.S. national championships, 2 Pan American gold medals, and a world record. Dotsie is now an activist, speaker, and the founder of a company called Switch for Good. Dotsie shares the power of curiosity and how being addicted to learning can help you. She also shares a touching and courageous story about overcoming struggles and how she had a severe addiction and was healing from an eating disorder to becoming a healthy-minded, wonderful person who got an Olympic silver medal.
In order to help others, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is totally free. And if this interests you, send it to other people who want to gain more mental health knowledge as well. Hi, Dotsie.
Hi there, Lacey.
It's nice to see you.
Oh, you too. You too. I'm glad we're doing this.
Me too. So how long have you been cycling?
Well, let's see. My professional career was about 13 years, but I retired in 2012. So I'm still riding. So now I guess we're over 20, but I just ride for fun now.
Wow. And what does your riding for fun look like? Is that still pretty intense compared to a general person who go out to ride a bike?
It's probably a little more intense than a general bike ride, but it's way less intense than what I am used to, from doing it for a living, for sure. I came home from Olympics and ripped off all of my bike computers, all of my cycling computers, all of my power meters, and just the handlebars and me now. So that felt amazing because it can get really techie, really nerdy real fast, tracking all those numbers. And it was important then, but now I don't want to see that anymore. I just want to see, just want to feel the wind in my face and see the epic views. And I've gotten a lot more into mountain biking post career. I don't know. I love being out there in the wilderness and you don't have to deal with cars. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That is a good point. Like therapeutic in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Very scenic. That's nice. You're kind of like, okay, I'm good. I had my time with all the techie stuff. Now I just want to ride.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so Dotsie, your background is super interesting and really inspirational. I thought we could talk about that because you went from being addicted to drugs and having an eating disorder to an Olympic silver medalist who's broken records.
Yeah, well, it's probably, that part of my personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
That addictive personality, that fighter type of personality that took me through my eating disorder, because it's hard to starve yourself. You've shared that you struggle too. So requires a lot of head down and pushing through like you're banging yourself into a brick wall. Right. And so it's the same Dotsie that was addicted to drugs and had a severe eating disorder that stood on the Olympic podium. And that's, I think probably just the most resounding aspect is for people to remember that our dark sides are our light sides. And we are the same. It's still us, right? Because I had so many people say to me as I started cycling, oh, you're just, replacing one addiction with another. And I thought, well, I don't know if you're right or not, but I know that I love this with all my heart. And I am so passionate about seeing where I can take it. I didn't know I had this talent in cycling. And so I was so curious. Curiosity drove me for the first 3/4 of my career. Just where could I go? How far could I go? What's possible? You know, like really seeing what my limits were. And so if it was a replacement, then maybe it was a replacement. In terms of having that, you know, addictiveness, because you almost have to have that's a bit of that as a professional athlete, right? I mean, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and expecting a different result, which is a little insane. But it's the same human, you know, that just was able to kind of turn down the dark and turn up the light.
We are human, and everyone's got their things, you know. Yeah. And like I shared with you, I had an eating disorder when I was a professional dancer, and it's hard, but we are still the same people. And that's what makes us who we are. I mean, talk about the resilience and the struggle and the push through that you had to go through. That's huge.
Yeah. It was you know, it was interesting how I ever even fell into cycling, because my therapist who I worked with, I had worked with many therapists in treatment centers and nothing had worked as far as my anorexia went. That was the real problem to come out of. The drugs, I just kind of stopped on my own over time. And I recognized that that's not always possible. But for me, it was, I kind of grew out of that. But the eating disorder I couldn't do on my own at all. And so I finally found somebody that I really connected with, and we got to work, and we worked really hard for a couple of years. And towards the end of that journey, that healing journey, that process with her, you know, she said to me, I want you to be able to, you know, move your body in a healthy way again, which I hadn't been able to do for a long time, because overexercise was definitely a part of my anorexia, like it is for so many. And so she said, I want you to pick something. I want you to pick an activity or just a sport, a movement, whatever you want to call it. Could be yoga, could be swimming, could be, you know, anything that you hadn't done before in your anorexia that, you know, was addictive. So I just chose a bike. I said, well, what about a bike? What if I got a bike? I mean, I'm living out in Los Angeles by now, and it's sunny all the time and pretty warm. And I think I could do this year round. And she said, I love it. Go get a bike. That sounds perfect. And I will be forever indebted to her for my healing machine to be my bike, that then turned into my torture machine not too shortly thereafter for the next 12 years. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You really took off with that curiosity, which is also a great tactic to have too. You were curious. Oh, let's see. And then as the time goes on, you're addicted to the bike now, to the point where you're in the Olympics.
Yeah, I was definitely addicted to the curiosity. I mean, I just can't forget thinking about how often I said that, how often I wanted to quit, because we all do when we're doing something hard. But how many times I said to myself, I can't quit yet. Today was a horrible day. Today was the week was horrible. The month was horrible. I'm not going to make the team. And wanting to quit, but I just kept going, but then I'll never know. I'll never know if I could have made it just a little further. I'll never know if I could have just made the national team for this one World Cup, or made the national team for this one world champion. Like I won't know if I quit. And then I'll always question. And then, you don't want to do that, I don't think. As an older person, like I should have done XYZ. So it really was curiosity that kept me on the bike.
It's kind of like you don't know until you try. So we might as well just give it a good go. And then you're satisfied, because if I hadn't made it, I still say I would have been satisfied, because I went all the way and gave it a go. And if we had gotten last at the Olympics, it was like I gave it everything I had. So there wasn't anything left. So I would have said, okay, that's how it was supposed to end. Nice. Yeah. And Dotsie, with your eating disorder, did you find out the source of it? Was it more of kind of like a control thing? Like sometimes with eating disorders, it's like nothing about the food. It's really just everything's out of control in my life and I need to control something. And food sometimes just is that for someone. And they're like, okay, I can control my food. That's how it was for me. Or was it kind of just about body image and your food and what was?
It was so much. I think it's so often not about the food at all. I think so many people don't recognize that eating disorder is very similar to any other type of addiction, whether it be drug addiction or alcohol addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction. Like you've just chosen food restriction or food binging as your poison instead of the alcohol or the gambling. Like, this is your poison and you're acting out on inner pain. It has nothing to do with the food. And it's easy to point at the food because, everybody eats, we all have to eat. So I think it just makes more sense to people to say, oh, it's about the food or about wanting to be really skinny or really not skinny or whatever. And it's not. I was just acting out. It was just my choice of poison to act out on my inner pain. And without going into too in-depth of a story, it was control for me. You nailed it.
Okay.
I was at a point in my life, this is what, before cycling, obviously, where I was feeling lost and afraid, and a lot of self-loathing was going on. And the eating disorder gave me a way to assert control over something, right? Mm-hmm. And it kind of gave me a high, because it's hard to starve yourself, as we mentioned before. It's so if you can do it, you starts to really build this incredible sense of like, I'm kind of awesome, like I've got this. I have complete control over this.
Yes.
And it feeds on itself, right? And that's what's scary. So.
Wow. And how did you get through that, Dotsie? No, it's not overnight. You wake up, oh, it's gone. But
right.
Any evolution of therapy, and it sounds like for you was helpful.
Yeah. Yes. It's like I think with any other addiction, for quite a long period of time, I didn't recognize it. I didn't want to recognize it. People around me started to recognize it. They called for me to get some help, called on me to get some help. And I was, just turning them all down, and I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. So the first step was like when I looked in the mirror one day and was like, this could kill you. Like, I remember going, this is like, if I continue on this track or on this route, but I wasn't too concerned about that. I thought, well, if it kills me, it kills me. I was kind of in that space where that didn't really, that didn't scare me that much. Mm-hmm. So when I finally decided to get some real help, it was honestly just out of a desire to, it was for my family. It was because they had been so upset and had tried for so long. And I finally just came to this realization, okay, this is probably going to kill me, but I need to try to get better for them, because when I die, they need to know I tried. Which is, of course, they wouldn't have cared about if they lost me, whether I tried or not, probably. But it was in my head that I needed to show them that I was going to try. And so through the journey of trying for them, I started trying for myself. Just nice. One day I started just kind of starting to try for myself. I think it's when I saw that it was a little bit of light, that it was a possibility that I could get better, and not live with this forever. Because I definitely went into my therapy journey thinking, that I would never get 100%. I just thought this will always be a part of my life. Maybe I could just get a little bit better. But and when I was finally shown that, oh wow, I actually could possibly live outside the confines of this cage that is anorexia, I thought, wow. So. And I started wanting it for myself.
You know what? It kind of ties in with your curiosity part of yourself. Like, you're kind of like, wow, there's a possibility that I can heal. I'm curious. I want to do it. And then over time, you're like, wow, Dotsie's back,
Yeah, you go. Well, it's like, yeah, it's true. You're right. Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And gosh, Dotsie, I can relate. I can 100% relate to that. It's hard. And I admire you for getting through that and speaking about it and helping others with that kind of thing, because it's lethal. Having an eating disorder
absolutely is. I have some friends that have lost their lives to anorexia, and your body, it starts to eat its own organs. And so the most common death of anorexia is a heart attack, because your body started to eat its own heart tissue. I mean, it's heavy and heartbreaking, and it's a gnarly death. I've watched it unfold for a few people. And God, good God, I don't wish any of any types of addiction on anyone. It's just, yeah.
It's nice to know that there are people like you who talk about these things and how you got through it, and that there's therapists and all the other resources that we're privileged enough to have that can help get us through that. It's heavy and it's a serious thing. But also, Dotsie, on another note, aside from the heaviness, your curiosity is phenomenal. And I think that's a great lesson for all of humanity, to kind of go out things with, oh, I'm just curious. Even if someone's mad at you, be curious, not furious, you know? Like, I wonder why. What kind of mindset you have, and how your mindset has helped you with becoming an Olympian. And
well, it traverses that line in the sand of curiosity, for sure. I mean, it was a part of it. But one of my favorite lines, quotes by Helen Keller, is that security is mostly a superstition. It's actually never found in nature. Like, there's no security in nature, right? It's a creation by human beings that we have it. But it's mostly a superstition. I mean, we don't really have that much control, and we don't, have that much ability to make sure that we're secure. And so for me, it was, I turned a big corner in going from a good athlete to a great athlete, I think, when I recognized that, avoiding danger, if you will, is no safer in the long run than outright exposure to it. Because there was, in the route to, making Team USA or making the Olympics, you're constantly living outside of your comfort zone, or you have to be, because you're not going to be able to push yourself to the brink and to see what's possible on the other side. So you're constantly living outside your comfort zone, and it doesn't feel good very often to live pretty far outside your comfort zone. And I had to learn to get comfortable living outside of that comfort zone. And I started to learn that there was no reason I should have been avoiding the quote danger of the stress, or of the workout, or going to the line to compete with other teammates to make the next World Cup team. All of that stuff feels scary and dangerous, and like, oh my gosh, I just want to stay in like my warm bed and not do this today, because you're going to be putting yourself out there. You're going to be putting yourself out there, and there is always the option that you fail. And more often than not, in high level sport, you're failing. I mean, you can ask anyone, they never were like, oh, I won, straight through from when I was 5.
Never.
Yeah, it's never the case. So it's how do you build that resiliency to bounce back? And for me, it was finally just kind of succumbing to not trying to avoid that danger anymore, not trying to avoid that exposure, like just going with it, being with it, doing it, and just doing it over and over, and recognizing that that's how I'm going to also find my best. I'm going to find some failure, but I'm also going to find my best that way. And then that was a breakthrough for the rest of my career.
That's impeccable, Dotsie, that you can bounce back, like you said, with the resilience. And it sounds like you kind of became comfortable with the discomfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that part alone was what got you to where you are, because it's like, okay, I'm just going to notice that, hey, I'm avoiding this right now. So I'm going to try to not avoid this. And yes, it's super uncomfortable, and I'm scared, and I'm putting myself out there. But the more you did it, it sounds like your brain just kind of went, okay, I didn't die. I'm okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what you do. You go, okay, all right, I'm still here. Okay, let's round 2, let's keep going with this. And it was, as an athlete, you're always pushing yourself to the brink, like physically. And most elite athletes are able to do that. But it's a whole nother ball game to be able to push yourself past those emotions, past those fearful emotions that I'm putting myself out there in front of, let's say you're at a race, national championships or something, the people that I love, my teammates, my coach, my husband, and I don't want to disappoint them kind of thing. And I had a teammate on Team USA that was an extraordinarily gifted cyclist. And she was definitely better than I was. She was technically better and she was stronger. But every time really that the pressure was on, every race that we went to, she kind of folded mentally and emotionally. And that was the difference, right? It was like she just let fear in, and the possibility that she was going to disappoint herself and those who were champions of hers, was greater than her ability to just try. Wow. and not worry about what the outcome was. And if she could have gotten it together mentally, I probably wouldn't have been on the team. But I wasn't very nice with helping her get through that emotion. No, I did, but I wasn't successful because I'm not a professional psychiatrist. But yeah, that was wild to kind of watch though, because it was like, oh my gosh, if you can get this together, what comes out of your body is like, she was really gifted.
It's spooky how much our minds play a huge role in our athleticism and how our bodies perform. And
yeah, it's performance, right? It really, it's how do you perform, because your emotions and your mind also have, release the hormones that allow you to relax and perform at your best, right? You got dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, and all of them are playing a role, and they can easily shut down your physical best. They can. It's freaky.
Thank you so much for this, Dotsie.
Absolutely.
This is truly good information. And I know people who admire you, including myself. So I'm honored to get to speak with you today.
Good luck with this project. And thank you for doing it, because you're going to help a lot. You're going to help a lot of athletes and a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
You are.
I'm getting my doctorate right now in psychology, but I'm like, not everyone can afford therapy. I mean, we charge so much. So I'm like, if I just make a thing where people can just click a link, get a little tips, and then,
I really want to share it when it's up, and I want to listen to the other ones so I can get some free tips. So let me know when it's out. All right. Thank you.